You are listening to Radar Cop Podcast. I am your host, Al Martinez, also known as Alpha Mike. This is episode 337. Where are the new kids on the block? Is the name of the episode. Before we get to that, if you're on the video aspect of it, you could see the new. Let me take a picture of the picture. You can see the new hobby as it's coming along. And we are playing with a new Sony digital camera as part of our episode here in doing better podcasting for you, the listener. All right, so this episode that we're going to talk about today is going to be about these immigrant illegal minor children that have crossed the border, and we don't know what the exact amount, how many are missing, how many are not. So we'll talk about that, why it took so long to do this podcast, this episode, and why we're going to end up doing this again in the future. So that and a lot more. So let's take a look before we hit that. If you are in the Tampa Bay area and looking for gun training, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, you can give us a call at RaiderCopTac.com. That's RaiderCopTac.com. We can teach you pistol, revolver, shotgun, carbine, rifle, whatever you're interested in, whether you're an intermediate or you're a beginner. Especially, you have to take that first leap and learn some good tactics on self-defense and self-protection, especially with a firearm. You know, it looks easy carrying a firearm. You could buy one, you can put it inside a holster, but there's so much more that you have to develop, especially in yourself, as you become more and more proficient with that firearm and the training evolutions that come with it. So, if you're in the Tampa Bay area, give us a call. Our number is 813-942-7400. And if you want to hear all our podcasts, you can from number 1 to number 337. That is this episode. And you can give us, you can send us a nasty email at RaiderCopPodcast, all one word, at proton, PROTON.me. And of course, the website is RaiderCop.com. RaiderCop.com. Before we dive into the main event, we're going to talk a little bit about introduction of what's been happening in the media. You know, and I know exactly where I'm going with this. So, let's take a look as we see that Ukraine took the opportunity of sending its President Zelensky to Washington so he could sit down and speak to the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Along with Donald J. Trump would be the Vice President, J.D. Vance, Secretary of State, Marcos Rubio, as well. Did the meeting go well? No. It's a meeting that's going to be spoken about for many, many years to come. You see, Zelensky showed up as a spoiled little brat, trying to change the narrative of an agreement that was made. His intention was not necessarily to give away $500 billion of minerals, but to shed attention on himself and obtain more funding. See, he was not really picking up a check on this one. So he thought he'd act rude, like he usually does, come underdressed as he usually does, and basically thumb his middle finger at Americans from coast to coast. Wasn't taken well, and the 47th president said, throw this bum out. Now, our friends on the left, they think it's the worst thing in the world. Donald J. Trump has insulted the president of Ukraine. I'll remind our friends on the left that Ukraine is a very corrupt country with a corrupt president. I'll also remind them that the 46th president, Joe Biden's son, was an executive in Ukraine, coincidentally. So, how much money has the 47th president sent to Ukraine? Zero. Absolutely zero. And there's a lot of people that think that this war should keep on going. 47's plan, stop the war. Stop the killing. Stop the fighting. That's simple. He's trying to take their minerals. No, he's trying to secure the $350 billion that Joe Biden sent him. And the only way to do that is by signing over. There's a new president in town, and he's not pulling up with anybody's BS. Also in the news, and especially the federal news, as we know, the Department of Efficiency continues to really hit people in the code zones with finding billions and billions and billions of dollars for us every time they do an audit. Now, Elon Musk has said he's looking for approximately $2 trillion in fraud, corruption, misspending, whatever title you want to give it. I don't think he's going to be that good in finding $2 trillion. I think we'll come close to $1 trillion, and that is more than enough concern that anybody should have where that money has gone and how that fraud ever happened. So the federal government now has proceeded to cut jobs, cut a lot of jobs. You see, we were way too big, and we still are. Cutting those jobs, we don't even know who they are, because you see, when COVID hit in 2020, many people stopped reporting to work. Believe it or not, the federal government does not have a handle on how many employees they have, if they exist. And that's upsetting. If you are listening to the words that I just said and that doesn't upset you, then you are the problem, because it upsets me. Every dollar they find in corruption, every issue that arises of corruption, every fraud, misspending, everything upsets me. When you can't determine how many federal employees we have, that upsets me as well. So no, I'm not happy. And I think, just like we have to make sure we dot our I's and cross our T's, the federal government has to do the same. I applaud these efforts, and I hope they continue, because we are making America great again. So, our troops are here in America. They're not going to Ukraine. It's horrible what's happening over there. But like the president says, there's an ocean separating us. This is not our fight. We want it to stop. We don't want to be friendly with Russia, as they're saying. But we have to stay in our lane. And those countries that live in that area, mostly Europe, need to man up, pony up, and get to that area. Zelensky, the day of his outburst in the Oval Office, disrespecting millions of Americans, cost his troops 220 of his troops died on the battlefield because he refused not to sign a treaty or go forward with peace. Unfortunately, his soldiers will continue to die. So, what can we do with that? It's very, very difficult. So let's turn to the book of Revelations, chapter 7, and we are going to look at chapter 7. I said verse 9. Give me 1 second, because all of a sudden my tablet wants to ask me a bunch of questions. And I am just slightly a little busy right now. So, book of Revelations, chapter 7, verse 9, starting at verse 9. And it says, "After these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude which no one could number, all nations, tribes, people, and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, saying, Salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb." We live in very difficult times. They are getting more and more difficult. And reading the book of Revelations is very important if you are a believer. If you're new at believing and knowing that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, well, the book of Revelations will be a little bit more difficult for you to understand, and through the Holy Spirit you will understand it as you march on in your salvation. So that was Revelation chapter 7, verse 9 and 10. And again, having that foundation gives you the strength to continue moving forward. So, without any other further holdups, we have our main event. This is episode 337. Where are the new kids on the block? We're speaking about hundreds of thousands of migrants, children that came to this country. Where are they? Stand by, because we're going to look at that in a second. So, the question that we have to ask as we start this part of the podcast, how many of these children are there? Are there 800,000, 600,000, 300,000, 320,000, or 32,000? Every one of those figures that I just gave you, in my research for this podcast, was told that would be the amount that were either crossing the border or missing. And it's disturbing that we don't know exactly the amount. It is disturbing. We had, at one point, 32,000 kids that refused, or better said, failed, to report to court appearance. As a result that they refused to go to the court appearance, there was no search party. Why they didn't show up, the 32,000? Where are they? What occurred? Nothing. Absolutely zero. You see, the ICE agents that should have been responsible to do that were not given the authority. Repeat that again. Were not given the authority at the time in the Biden administration to follow up if they failed to appear in court. UACs, as they're called, these young children crossed the border. The average age is 11, the median age is 13. They're missing. The amount staggering some of these numbers. For example, in 2022, 149,000 just in 1 year. 149,000 in 1 year. If you go back to, let's say, 03, 04, 05, it wasn't even 8,000. In 2022, 149,000 UACs, unaccompanied children, are crossing the border with an average age of 11 and a median age of 13. They would come, most of them not even vetted. They were given, after they were processed, an orientation video. Now, I haven't seen the video, but I wonder if the video was in their native language and they could understand it, since their average age was 11, between 11 and 13. And our government started shipping them all around the country. What's most disturbing is on appearances that should have gone to court was 290,000. Now, I did tell you about the 32,000 that failed to show up, but I couldn't find figures of what happened with the total amount of 290 that had to go to court. 290,000. Mostly all these children, every single one of them, in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 24, all these children are being processed manually by paper. Not digital, not computerized, that you could find them probably, with 2 drops of a hat. No, manually. Right now, if you would ask the federal government, what's the exact number of missing children that crossed the border or UACs, they wouldn't know. That, my friends, is a problem. Not knowing where the $350 billion that the United States government gave Ukraine, as Zelensky, whatever his name is, turns around and says, I only got $71 billion. It's disturbing. Having employees not able to answer what they did, 5 things they did last week, is disturbing. Having whole agencies working for the maniac, crazy left and shipping out monies, 50,000 condoms to the Taliban, is disturbing. And I could be here much more. Most disturbing are these missing kids. Because unfortunately, the outgoing administration could not tell us, U.S. citizen, the exact number that's missing. Therefore, that's disturbing. A lot of the left media tells you, well, this is all baloney because they're not really missing. They're missing administratively. Whether they're missing on paper or for real is disturbing. Is disturbing. They're 11 years old. They're 13. For whatever reason they crossed the border. I'm not getting into that. What I am getting into, once this buffoonery government allowed them to cross, we took ownership. And now we don't know where they're at. Many of them probably being human trafficked or in the job market, working how God knows where and for how long. It's disturbing. And you should be mad and you should be upset. ICE under President Trump, Tom Holden, the director of ICE, on his first week said he found 75,000 of them. Now, it probably wasn't physically. It probably was administratively. But what is the actual number? Is it 800,000, 300,000, 400,000? We found 75,000. I'm so happy. But what's the number? And the left saying that they were never missing, but they're missing administratively? What the hell does that mean? It's disturbing. And you should be upset, as I am. One of the problems that we're having in this country is recognizing when to be upset and how to correct the problem. We're not thinking about correcting, we're thinking about pointing blame and just like an old woman in a wash house, complain about it. But our job is not necessarily to complain about it. Our job is to correct it and make sure it doesn't happen again. And getting off the subject for a second, our Attorney General Pam Bondi and our FBI Director Kash Patel were made fools of, unfortunately, in the Epstein case that they were going to reveal some information. Well, they ended up just revealing information that's old that everybody had already, and the real good stuff nowhere to be found. Everybody's done a lot of barking. Those papers better be here by sundown. Nothing's shown up. This is disturbing. You should be mad. You should be upset. We should get to the bottom of this. Unfortunately, a lot of the problems that we're experiencing is corruption, the swamp, and pure greed from politicians, unaccountability. But it stops. Now they're being held accountable. The finger's pointing at them. Let's see what happens. So I can tell you, Americans are really hoping something occurs. But most importantly, we should all stand by on these children that are missing. I just can't accept, they're missing on paper, but, it's been said they weren't vetted properly. They were placed in foster care. The people that they're with, we don't even know. This is a problem that is probably going to blow up pretty bad and get really ugly in the future. But regardless of what has happened, we have to correct it and make sure it doesn't happen again. I can't close out this podcast because I still don't know, like you don't know, how many children there are, how many are in danger, Can we find them? Is it too late? And how can we help them when we find them? A lot of unanswered questions. Is this going to cost us billions? Yes. And every one of those little children, ages 11 to 13, deservedly need that psychiatric help. Because the 46th president of the United States allowed it to happen. We'll continue focusing on these stories, and we'll plug it in on other podcasts. And if need be, we'll do another podcast to wrap this one, to complement this one, and giving it some closure. It's upsetting. Up next, we're back to guns, folks. I know I'm happy about it, and you should be too. And we're on March 12th. We're going to go in really good on the wish list. Episode 338. What are we going to be talking about? Come on. If you're a Second Amendment user and you love guns, you know, you have that wish list. Oh, if only I had, I'd buy. Oh boy, if only I'd get. Well, we're going to talk about the practicability of if only. What would you like? Is it practical? And is more than one gun too much? Or is just one gun enough? We'll talk about that. And most importantly, that wish list. Because not necessarily guns. Could be ammo. Could be knives. Oh, it could be so many things under the Second Amendment. So don't forget, episode 338, March 12th, the wish list. If you are in anywhere in the U.S., it doesn't matter where you are, and you want your gun up to specs, you want to make it one of the best trigger, you want a better barrel, you want optics on it, better sights, a stippling job, whatever it is. Pistol Pete, the gunsmith down in Miami, he's your guy. He was my armorer when I was active in law enforcement, kept me safe for many, many years, and I trusted Pete with my life. And therefore, Pistol Pete, the gunsmith down in Miami, give Pete a call. His information is down on the bottom of the show notes, and he can tell you lawfully and safely how to send him that gun. He'll bring it up to those specs that you want and send it right back to you. And the best part, it's all perfectly legal. You know, as the ATF starts to wonder, holy shit, man, are we going to exist tomorrow? We don't know. But in the meantime, we're following the rules. Also, if you are in the New Jersey area and you heard the secret that many New Jerseyans know, they can actually have concealed weapons. And the state of New Jersey has authorized firearms instructors to teach this course, and I know one of them. Sepulveda Inc. SEPULVEDA Inc. out of New Jersey, my good friend Karis, and he will teach that course like the back of his hand. Been an instructor for over 20-something years, and he knows guns, and he knows them well. NRA instructor and NRA coach. That means he teaches other instructors as well to become instructors. So give him a call. His information is on the bottom of the show notes. SepulvedaInc.com. And if you are in the South Florida area and you're looking for a good gun class, I know my friend Amalo at AAA, that's AAAgunsafety.com, AAAgunsafety.com. as class early March, I think it was. But give them a call and you could be in the next class. These are good instructors, and if they weren't, I wouldn't be saying it. And if you're looking for wellness, you need to be grounded because you're a little stressed out, Oasis Creations LV. Oasis CreationsLV.net. It's going to help you out. And there's some merch there if you're interested as well. And don't forget, Raider Cop TAC, TAC.com. Give us a call if you're looking for gun training in the Tampa Bay area. Lastly, give. If you have a little bit extra to Gun Owners of America, GOA, Gun Owners of America, it's as low as $25 a year, $25 a year. And they do a lot of good for us in Washington, D.C. And if you want to give just $11 a month, T2T, Tunnels to Tower, I've been giving them money and donations for many, many years. Tunnels to Tower, they're helping those first responders and military veterans that have lost their lives, their families, whether it's paying off a mortgage or giving them a house or giving them a future. It's as low as $11. So consider giving. Makes the body good. And lastly, as I always say, be grounded in your beliefs, in your faith. Be vocal. Be respectful. But be proudful that you were born in this country. And when you see wrong, that you can pony up and stand up to help others. Continue to pray for yourself because without you in the game, we have nothing. Continue to pray for your family, your community, the law enforcement agencies that serve you. And most importantly, continue to pray for the United States of America. This is Alpha Mike, and I'll see you downrange.